Hi, I'm Stuart Marshall. I am the founder and one of the developers on bThere.ai. I'm going to show you how I made a remote cat feeder so that we could feed our cats and see our cats while we're on vacation. If you go on Amazon, you can find a lot of automatic cat feeders. Pretty much all of them, are schedule based. You set them up for a certain time of day and certain days of the week, or maybe I guess every day really, because the cats are always going to be hungry. And you set them on automatic and you go away on vacation. But how do you know that it's working? How do you know the program's working? How do you know that the thing is actually spitting out food? We faced some of this anxiety when we went on vacation, and we were trying to figure out, like, how do we make sure that the cats are being fed? Plus, we love our cats. So we decided, or I decided really, that I wanted to make a remote cat feeder. I wanted to leverage our existing bThere.ai software and build a cat feeder that would allow us to basically, from anywhere in the world, we could connect into the cat feeder, we could see video, and we could tell it to dispense food. And we could see that the cats were there and, make sure that they were doing okay. We've used this solution to feed our cats from Amsterdam, Brussels, Paris, um, Munich, and, well, now from a houseboat in Oregon. I'm going to walk you through the components of how this thing works and what are the different pieces. One of the things that's important to realize is that robots are not just things on wheels or, robots with arms. Robots can be a lot of different kinds of machines. So before I made the remote cat feeder, we went on Amazon and we were trying to find, like, a reasonable automated scheduled cat feeder. And we got one of these. It's a PetSafe and it has this like control pad up front so you can, enter in a schedule. And to be honest, my family, they hated this thing. It was really hard to figure out. The programming was kind of Byzantine. So that was part of the inspiration for like making this into a remote cat feeder. So let me open it up and show you how it works. It's actually kind of cool. All right, so I'm going to take the lid off. Okay, there's the hopper. That's where the food goes. You dump a bunch of food in here, and it kind of goes down that hole. And down that hole is this. You see that there's basically this thing that rotates and conveys the food up to get dispensed out here out the front. It ends up coming out that hole. Down here, you'll notice that there appears to be a motor. Well, that's what it is. It's an electric motor. There's also a little bit of wiring that goes up to the circuitry. The circuitry is, back in here. And when I opened this up, what I did is I basically just snipped off the wires that are powering it, normally from batteries or from a 12-volt source. And I just, took those out to my Raspberry Pi and my own motor controller. I think I've still got the computer hooked up. When I run it, it actually lights up a little bit. It gets a little bit of leak over power, but it doesn't really matter. What's really happening is that motor down there is being driven by the power that's coming off of the Raspberry Pi, and it rotates this conveyor belt, and food comes out and makes the cats happy. The other pieces of this is a standard Raspberry Pi 3. I've got it connected to an Ethernet cable just for convenience. I'm going to put this on Wi-Fi, but right now it's just on the Ethernet. There's this USB data cable going over here to a Sabertooth motor controller. Now this is totally overpowered for what we're doing. This just has a small motor in it for driving the conveyor belt. This thing is capable of like driving 32 amps over 2 different channels. It's really built for big robots, and right now I'm in between robots with it, so I went ahead and took advantage of it, and I'm using it to drive the motors for the cat feeder. This is the power supply. It's a old DC wart, and I snipped off the end of it, and I basically used it as a power supply for the Sabertooth. Up here I've got a Logitech C920 camera that will plug into the Raspberry Pi. There's going to be a second camera, another Logitech C920 that I'm going to put on this other little tripod over here. And what will end up happening is that I'm going to set all of this up with the tray down here, and the Raspberry Pi and the Sabertooth, and it's going to be able to drive the motor and spit out food into this tray. I'll show it to you in a sec when it's all set up. I've got everything set up for the remote cat feeder. This is the original scheduled cat feeder that I cannibalized. You can see the power wires coming out the side of it. I'm going to open up the hopper and you can see what's inside. Voila, a giant pile of food. This is way more food than they need for a couple of days away, but I wanted to make sure that there was extra. It's one of the things I actually like about this cat feeder is that it has a really large capacity, so you can set it up for a lot of cats for a week or two if you need to. Cats don't really want to be alone that long, but the cat feeder has more than enough capacity, which is good. There's the power lines for the motor coming out the side. I've got it sheathed a little bit because the cats like to chew on them. They look like mice tails or something. Down here you can see the Sabertooth motor controller. The power lines go to that. I've also got the Raspberry Pi 3 here. It's plugged in with a nice high voltage, high power supply. Ethernet, the control wire going over to the Raspberry Pi, and 2 USB cables going to the cameras. The cameras, here's one of them over here, so it's a nice one that we can watch the cats while they're nomming their food, and the other one is up here on a tripod. Now the tray itself, you can see there's a metal tray here, and I've duct taped it down. It's kind of important to do that because the cats, they will push it around and see if there's any cat food underneath it. First time I did this, about halfway through our trip, they'd thrown the tray on the floor. And at that point, the cat feeder was still working, but it was basically, dispensing the food onto the table itself, which is not ideal. It's better if it's kept in a tray. So that's the cat feeder. That's how it's assembled, all the different parts. Let me show you what it's actually like to operate it. I click to connect in the bThere console. The video connects. We've got 2 video streams, one from above so we can see the whole tray. I click to dispense food. Out comes 1 scoop, 2 scoops, 3 scoops, and there's our cat. So the cat gets to have some yummy dinner. We've got 2 video streams, so we can see the cat from above, or we can see the nice close-up view of the cat. We can have anywhere from 1 to 5 video streams of configurable resolution and bitrate. The crosshairs are left over from when we usually use this system to drive wheeled robots. This works with any browser in the world. You can connect to robots that are on Ethernet or Wi-Fi or on cell modem. So there you have it. That was me feeding the cat over the internet from a long distance away, making the cat happy, making me happy. Everybody knows that the cat's happy and safe and fed. And that's what we can do with our software. We can control robots that drive around on sidewalks, in factories, and we can feed cats.